Before we begin, thank you very much to I Hate Transformers, your username, not mine, for joining my Patreon campaign. As always, very appreciated, no matter how ridiculous the name is. I do appreciate the contributions, and the support all goes into making the channel continue and the daily content to continue. So thank you guys so much for doing so. I always appreciate it. Let's not get into announcements, because let's frankly, I've been losing a lot of time lately. So let's just get right into the meat of this. As part of Beast Machines, I decided that today I'm also going to be taking a look back at what could have been, because as a lot of fans know, we were supposed to see a follow-up to Beast Machines, and that is the infamous Transtech, the next evolution in that stage of the Beast saga. So, admittedly, a lot of details on this are pretty sparse. We don't know a whole lot about the series or what it would have been, because lots of this didn't even make it out of the planning stage. But we're going to take a look at what was planned and at least kind of figure out exactly what was going on with it. So, for a little bit of backstory, for those who were not aware of what Transtech was, it is supposed to be a follow-up to Beast Machines, to explore what Cybertron and Transformers would be now that it is a planet-wide thing to be techno-organic. The idea would be to go back to vehicles, because now they're back onto Cybertron, except the vehicles would retain an animalistic element. You see in the artwork here for Optimus Prime, for instance, there is still some ape details to him. You can see the ape face buried somewhere in that semi-truck. Similarly, a lot of characters still had a lot of their animalistic traits, even though they lost their beast modes. We'll see that as I scroll through the production art. But basically, the idea was to take what Beast Machines did design-wise, pushing it into this very hyper-futuristic aesthetic, and go even further beyond with incredibly experimental designs and extremely high-tech looks. Things that look like steampunky, like super sci-fi things. It's a little bit crazy. This would have been somewhere probably developed between season 1 and 2 of Beast Machines. We know at some point the Beast Machines writing team was offered a third season of the show, but at the time, the creators of the show were starting to gauge fan reaction to it and decided, you know what, you need to wait a little bit. We're going to cap it at 2 so you can see the response this is getting. Because, of course, they wait for the toy sales and numbers and ratings to come in, which took a lot longer to find out back then. So, once Hasbro found out, yeah, 2 seasons was all it's going to be, and they started working on the next one. What happened after that, we'll get into at a later date. The point being, it's somewhere around here, this series would have been in development as the next step from evolving from what Beast Wars was back into basically futuristic vehicles of all types. So we do know that the waves for the toys, this toy line didn't really get out of development, but it was far enough along to actually start getting some wave announcements. So we do know that, and it was supposed to be released summer 2021, and the initial wave was going to be 4 deluxes, which included Shockwave, Starscream, Cheetor, and Silverbolt. There were going to be 2 megas, which we never got to find out about, and then, of course, an Ultra Class Optimus Prime and Megatron, and then somewhere along the line, a deluxe Rat Trap was also in the works. That's all we know about the actual release time of the toys, so they were far enough along to tell some retailers, yes, this is what you will be getting. Not far along to get anything actually produced, but it was the preliminary list. So it got that close to actually getting the green light. But that's basically it. So, story-wise, we know a lot of the characters. So we're going to go through some of the artwork here. We're going to talk about it. And we're going to figure out basically what this was going to do. So, a lot of the returning Maximals were going to be familiar to us. Mostly the survivors of Beast Machines, except for Botanica. We don't know why Botanica always gets the short end of everything, but I guess that's just how it goes. So this on your screen right now is Black Arachnia. So when you talk like hyper-futuristic alien design, that is what Transtech was going for. At this point, I should mention that a lot of this was originally revealed on the Draxhall Jump website. They were the designers of a lot of the Transtech designs, and what the series would have concepted to be. That website no longer exists. We're also going to be looking at some things from BehindTheToys.com, which is also another defunct website. Everything you are seeing in this video was sourced either from Transformers Omniverse or our friends at TF Archive, who have done an extensive job at trying to preserve as much knowledge about this canceled series as possible. So thank you to both of them for keeping some history alive as far as, in the Transformers mythos. But yeah, this is the design direction, and it's hard to even recognize any kind of Black Arachnia under that, isn't it? It's hard to even see where her head is. But yeah, you can see on the side, they went through a few different iterations of what she was going to be designed like, and that's just the beginning here. Night Scream's plan to return, and you look at this, and this is pretty extreme. This is a pretty extreme change. Like, the larger piece of artwork there looks more like something out of Evangelion than Transformers. They were going to go super radical with the designs. Here's a look at Silverbolt. It's weird to see Silverbolt from Beast Wars as a vehicle, isn't it? It doesn't feel right. Also, he should have been some kind of car jet mix because Fusor, but no, he's just super hyper futuristic stealth bomber. These are some really bizarre design choices. Now, this is all production artwork. They did eventually settle on final iterations of these characters. I apologize that this is a little bit small on the screen. But for the most part, it's just basic design stuff. You can see what would have been the faction symbol at the top right. I will mention, we had no idea at any point. I still don't think we know if this was going to be a Maximal Predacon thing or an Autobot Decepticon thing. Some of the production art you're going to see is using Autobot and Decepticon faction symbols, even though the characters are all retained from being Maximals. But you're also going to see that symbol, which kind of mixes the Autobot and Maximal symbols a little bit. And likewise, the villains of the series have one that's a mix of the Decepticon and Predacon symbols. So it's a little bit confused exactly if this was going to be, if this was going to be Maximal Silverbolt as an Autobot, or if it's just a new type of Maximal. Unclear. But yeah, it's a very big departure from Silverbolt's standard designs, isn't it? It's crazy different. And then there's Cheetor, who went through a lot of iterations. They knew they wanted him to be a race vehicle of some kind, particularly a dragster. You can see in the top left, that doesn't actually look too bad. If that design showed up in, the IDW verse, that would just kind of seem par for the course. The Cheetor in the upper left just kind of looks like Cheetor. It's similar to the one in the bottom right. In the bottom right, that is very much just like Cheetor, whereas in the top right, you're looking at those, again, very, very futuristic alien designs. This almost looks like something out of Guyver, not Transformers. And that seems to be the style a lot of the head designs went for in this artwork. But the final version of Cheetor is ridiculously different, with these gigantic hoop shoulders and gigantic hoop wheels for feet. It's crazy different. And then you have this IndyCar it transforms into. And it looks like it's impossible. It looks like there's no physical way this can work as a toy. How does it even stand up? How does that super sleek robot mode go into a full-size car? We were confused. It's such a weird design style. And then there's the strange stuff. What you're seeing on screen was a Transtech version of Depth Charge. Of all characters, Depth Charge was going to make a return in this series. And how? He was blown up. He was blown up in Beast Wars. He completely missed Beast Machines outside of a cameo of his head rolling around on the ground in some shots. It's a super cool design. Don't get me wrong. It's a super cool design. but also, man, weird. For a while, there was a hot minute where we actually thought Dinobot was planned to be in Transtech as well, because some really crazy design of his started showing up that was from official design art. Turns out that ended up being the Transmetal version of Dinobot that was canceled before it reached the prototype stage. So yeah, we got a little bit of mix up, and I think it's for the best. Dinobot's story is already a little bit tainted with the clone bringing him back. Bringing him back further, I think, would like ruin the sacrifice. Much as I'd love to see him and Rat Trap go at it one more time. But yeah, that was your returning cast of Maximals. Let's take a look at someone new. This was going to be one of our new villains. This is Immorticon. I think you're trying a little bit too hard on that name, but good on ya. I do really like the design. I mean, it's a crazy looking aesthetic. Gigantic, bulky head buried in the torso. Cool looking, really cool looking tank. It's important to note that Draxhall Jump also did design work for other toy companies. The basis for what would have been Immorticon eventually became a Marvel Megamorph Hulk. So some of these designs actually lived on in really strange ways. Like, not to like the aesthetic, but at least the form and the general idea of some of these designs ended up getting recycled in a few other random spots, which is also a weird aspect of Transtech's history and existence. So, who else can I show you? We can show you the new Scavenger. So apparently Hasbro instructed that they wanted something of a mix between a bulldozer and a IndyCar as, you know, one of these new, I don't know, we're going to call them Decepticons because that's the easiest. Now in this image, now keep in mind this image was from Draxhall Jump, so they drew their own conclusions and assumed that their version of Scavenger eventually inspired the Armada Scavenger. Now since then we found out, according to Aaron Archer, the guy who was running Transformers at the time, nothing of Transtech was reused for Armada. Armada from the beginning was designed to be a ground-up reboot and complete restart of Transformers, so they didn't pull from any previous sources. If there is similarity, it is supposedly coincidental. And yeah, I think outside of just having tread for arms, I really don't see much comparison between these two. So I'm willing to agree with that. There is a design we're going to see here very shortly that might give lie to that, but, you know. Let's take another look at Optimus Prime that we saw at the beginning. So this is where we get more returning characters, but this is interesting because it's going to be returning G1 characters. This is not Primal coming back to take his namesake completely and become a truck, not monkey. No. This is the G1 Optimus Prime brought back in this brand new techno-organic, high evolution style. Now, for the most part, it's a cool design. I have no idea how the arms work. Those seem like massive arms for such tiny elbows. I don't know how that physically works as a toy, but like this gigantic, like rolling barrel of a truck mode. I love the truck mode's look. And I think the incorporation of the ape face in it is really cool. The idea behind like little animalistic details being retained in the vehicle modes is actually kind of an interesting way of doing like post Beast Wars vehicle modes for these characters. I kind of like that. That's not a bad twist. It's a crazy Optimus Prime design though. For more returning characters, along with another shot of Immorticon, we can see what Shockwave would have looked like. They were going for something akin to kind of like a race car, because this Shockwave wasn't just like the logical second in command. No, this one was actually designated as an assassin. So super fast, super sleek. We can see, yeah, he got a lot of the traditional Shockwave colors, things that we'd see more in Energon Shockwave or Shock Blast with all that heavy green going on. But aside from that, it is not something that would strike me as, oh yeah, that's Shockwave. But apparently it was. Apparently it was going to be. Now, let's get to the big one. Let's get to Megatron. So, if Beast Wars Primal stays dead and we're seeing Optimus Prime again, then it stands to reason that this was going to be a returning G1 Megatron rather than a third person in that universe to carry the mantle. And it's a pretty like out there and exaggerated design. It actually like there's some elements of it that have more in common with like movie, especially like Revenge of the Fallen Megatron, than it does G1 or Beast Wars. But the idea's there. Man, the head designs they came up with are insane on this one, by the way. Megatron went through a lot of iterations of his design before they finally settled on something. This one has a little bit, you can see Megatron at the bottom, but this is just some random doodlings of various Transtech characters before they were actually finished. If we want to see something closer to a finished Megatron, that's what it was eventually going to be. And okay, so this is where you kind of see like maybe they did pull some design from Transtech, because that absolutely looks like Armada Megatron. You know, and it's not like Scavenger with, oh, well, his arms become the treads, so clearly they're the same design. No, they're not. This, with the treads becoming the legs, becoming the tops of the shoulders, the barrels sticking out the back like that, the coloring, yeah, I can absolutely see where they might have adapted Armada Megatron from this guy. But whatever, it's actually kind of a cool design. The one that got me fired up when we first saw it, and this took a while to get revealed, but it's super cool, was this shot of a finalized Starscream. Now, to my knowledge, we don't have a larger photo of his, like his finished bio. Actually, I think we do. I think we do. I forgot to pull it, though. But regardless, oh yeah, now I see it. Yeah, we did. So I apologize for the low side, but like, okay, Starscream was supposed to make a return, so I guess it's a returning Beast Wars character too. Technically, he was still listed as a power-hungry general. He had this like new like blue camo deco with the wings becoming more cape-like than anything, and it's a really cool design. I really wish they'd reuse. But what got me excited was the fact that the toy is actually present on here. So here's another factor that we didn't really know about for a while. Even the deluxes were designed to be electronic toys. A lot of them were produced, which were intended to be produced with translucent plastic running through their bodies so that their entire bodies could light up with an LED function. That, you know, to kind of get like this coursing energon thing, effect. Which sounds like it would have been cool. Sounds like it would have made some really fragile toys, but, you know, that was the thing back then. But it got me excited because this toy, look at it. It made it to the hard prototype production stage. There's like molded pieces to this. It actually got me excited that a mold might actually exist for this toy, because it's not just like a sculpted clay gray prototype. There's translucent plastic in there that at very least has to be cast resin. So, like, this got me excited, but likely it was only a prototype mold, things that were made with, like, not like proper injection molding, but, like, silicone molded from the clay proto. No. Now, that isn't to say that those protos don't exist. So, from BehindTheToys.com, we did finally get to see the hard copy of Cheetor, and it works. Somehow that super crazy design actually somehow works. And look at how good he looks. This looks super cool. Like, if that was done in like yellow with cheetah spots, that looked really awesome. And I'm really upset that never made it. Here's the crazier thing. The guy who took the photos, the guy who owns this hard copy, actually started to show us how it transformed. He didn't finish the photos, unfortunately. He only got about that far, so we never got to see what the prototype looked like in its final robot mode. I think these do show that the solution to the wheel feet was to have these like tiny little stabilizer feet flip out from them, so he could actually stay upright on those wheels. Supposedly a hard type of Optimus Prime also exists. Unfortunately, we never got to see that before he kind of vanished. He said that he was going to take photos of that one soon, and then we never heard from him again, and now the site's completely gone. So good luck ever finding out if that proto ever even exists or not. But he did leave us one other gift. Nice clear shots of that exact same Starscream. Oh man, and it still looks really cool. I still really love this design. I still really love how the robot mode looks. I love how they handled the nose cone and the wings. I wanted this. I wanted this so bad. He looks so cool. Alright, so aside from all this, what happened? Where did it go wrong? So, according to Aaron Archer, there's a lot of reasons why Transtech didn't go forward. Number one, Beast Machines didn't do nearly as well as they were hoping. It did underperform compared to Beast Wars, which they ultimately blamed on the darker storyline and the toys being, from what Aaron described as unrecognizable. The designs were pushed so heavily into this futuristic state that you just couldn't tell what they were anymore sometimes. It would be kind of a truck, kind of a lion. So they felt like the toys kind of pushed a lot of kids away, and the story of the show just wasn't appealing. Just too dark and just too moody. And I can see that. I can absolutely see that. There's also a lot of internal stuff going on for Hasbro. Financially, they were not doing well. They had debts piling up. A lot of their stuff was underperforming. So at the time, I think they were going through management changes at this time too. So at the time, they really weren't thinking about continuing on and taking a risk by continuing this trend with Transformers. Instead, they decided to cut it short. And then decided, we're just going to keep it safe. Let's go back to the drawing board, and we're just going to focus on making toys that are easy to recognize. This is a car. This is a jet. And we're going to dial it back to basics. Autobots and Decepticons. Cars, vehicles versus vehicles. Nothing crazy or anything like that. So, it's really a multitude of factors that led to Transtech getting canned. And the legacy of it, aside from the storylines of the transcended technomorphs, which is what a lot of Transtech got adapted into, we also get a lot of what could have beens. What would the storyline have been of, the rise of Immorticon, the return of Optimus and Megatron, the Maximals now adapting as like the saviors of the planet, and a brand new half organic, half technological Cybertron. It's things that we've been thinking about and trying to figure out for over 20 years now, because it's such a fascinating idea for Transformers to attempt. And while ultimately I'm glad they went in the direction they did, because the franchise may not have survived to the movies if they hadn't, it does leave me to wonder what could have been. And you know what? That is left to imagination, where many adventures with toys end up, as appropriately enough. So that is what I have for you. That is Transtech in the largest nutshell that I can wrap it around in. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you are educated. For those who were not familiar with this, there really isn't anything else. Fiction-wise, we never knew what the fiction of this was going to be. And everything else, like future waves, what those two blank mega-sized toys were going to be, all that is just in the wind, and who knows if we will ever find out. If even Aaron Archer doesn't know all the details behind this, then yeah, odds are there's really nothing left to find. But you never know. We're still making discoveries about, Transformers G1. So who knows? We might see that Primal someday. We might see something else someday. Just have to keep an eye out. But thank you guys for watching. I will see you next time.
It's the bosun's turn. He's looking at TJ's character and he's just like, what you gonna do?
Right. I blew him a kiss.
I love him. I love him.
What the hell's your problem? He's just gonna pull his can crossbow and just fire at you.
That's fair at this point.